We continue with breaking news that former cabinet minister and ANC stalwart Praven Gordhan has passed away at the age of 75, passing in the early hours of this morning after a battle with cancer. We now speak to the ANC NEC member, Ms. Phoebe Potgieter-Qobule, about Gordhan. Mayor, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us, and condolences. Your thoughts and initial reaction to the news that the former minister has passed away.
Thank you very much. Of course, we're very shocked, and on behalf of the ANC, sincere condolences to Comrade Praven Gordhan's family, his friends, comrades, loved ones, and everybody that has worked with him. Comrade PG indeed is a veteran and a South African patriot. He has been involved in the struggle against apartheid from early days as a young person, but he's also been involved in all different components of the pre-1994 struggle, in the armed struggle. He was involved in the ANC underground. He was involved in the mass democratic movement. And then, of course, the role that he played as a dedicated public servant for 10 years as the Commissioner of the South African Revenue Services, and then, of course, as Minister in different capacities. So his example of service, of dedication, of integrity, certainly is something that we will miss.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about just the massive responsibility that he's held in the various roles that he's led in some of our administrations. I mean, SARS Commissioner, a huge responsibility, a finance minister, such an important role. And then towards the end there, that final position of public enterprises minister, not easy jobs that have been put on his hands there.
I mean, one of the things about Comrade PG, as he was affectionately known, is that he never shied away from a challenge. I mean, you can give him any responsibility, he will carry it out with dedication. And he was really a very astute and sharp intellect, as well as a strategist. So all of those positions, whether it's the 10 years that he spent in SARS and built it into a world-class institution, as finance minister, as minister of local government, and of course the latest portfolio that he held before he retired as public enterprises. And even then, I mean, he was not well at the time towards the end of the term. At the same time, he was always on the ball and also always present, working very hard to solve problems and to chart a way forward for very troubled public enterprises at the time. And I think that the turnaround that we see is part of the work that he did under the Sixth administration.
Yeah, you know, I want to go back, if you will, just almost 30 years, and go back to 1996 when he was, of course, chairperson of the Constitutional Committee of the Constituent Assembly that had oversight over the implementation of the new constitution. We talk about big responsibilities. My goodness, if there was one that was huge, that certainly was it at the very beginning of our very democracy, right?
Yes, no, indeed. I mean, I think that if one talk about the last 30 years of our democracy, not even talking about the period before 1994 and the role he played in the negotiations, he certainly is a larger-than-life figure in a whole range of processes and initiatives that shaped our democracy. And as you say, his role in the Constituent Assembly is just amongst one of the many, many, many foundational roles that he played.
What would you say the legacy is that he leaves behind? And I know it's, we've just gotten the news, but certainly something for us to think about over the days that come, right? The message that his life, his career in politics and in leadership leaves the country with, if you were to perhaps, give it some thought.
Comrade Praven Gordhan was part of a generation who, from the onset and from a very young age, dedicate their lives to service to the people. I've said before that he was a patriot, and his entire life was shaped by that. And I think that the legacy is one of service to the people, a legacy of integrity, a legacy of hard work, a legacy of building And I think certainly that if one look at all of the institutions that he worked in, that is certainly what he left behind. He built institutions, he built strategies, and ensure that policies are in place. And he certainly was very outspoken on when mistakes were made, and the need to correct them, and then also playing an active part in making sure that they are corrected.
Yeah. You know, I have to read this because in the statement came in from the family this morning, there's a line that just jumps out at you and it's so hard to ignore. And it reads, after his retirement, Minister Gordhan fought a short, courageous battle with cancer. But then it goes on to say, bidding those closest to him farewell, Minister Gordhan was emphatic. I have no regrets, no regrets. We have made our contribution. No regrets. We have made our contribution. I don't know what you take from that, because certainly towards the end of the 6th administration, this was a minister who was facing some very, I suppose at some point, at the heart of very contentious and difficult decisions and discussions about public enterprises and state-owned entities, right? And he says there to his family, I have no regrets. What do you take from that?
Well, I think that firstly, an understanding of a life that's been dedicated to service to the people and the freedom of his people. And post 1994, a life that's dedicated to making sure that we build a better life for all. If one look at the turnaround at the moment, in our public enterprises, I think that he has played an important role in this. And I think that it's therefore not surprising that at the end of a very long life, he could say that indeed, I have no regrets, I've made my contribution. And I think that as South Africans and as the ANC, we can all agree that indeed, Comrade Praven Gordhan has run his race, he's done his service to the people in a way that spoke of dedication, of integrity, and of patriotism.
Yeah, and just before I let you go, with the expectation that we might very well then run into some very divisive conversations over the next few days, depending on how some in the political landscape have viewed the Public Enterprises Minister. Your message to those that will be, I suppose, reflecting on his life?
Well, I think that Comrade Praven Gordhan loved a good debate. He was very robust in his engagements in every issue. He believed that the democracy that we fought for meant that there are different dimensions to very complex problems. But I think that at the same time, we also need so certainly the reflections on his life will reflect someone who was dedicated to robust engagement. But I think that we should also respect the family, and both give them the space to be able to mourn their loved one, but also to ensure that we have the balance in how we debate the legacy and the contribution that he made towards South Africa. And once again, to the family, our heartfelt condolences.
Yeah, you know, for 30 years, the country has seen Praven Gordhan in the role of an official, right? And you would have had the privilege of having gotten to know the man. Would you talk to us about moments, candid moments that he did have that we never would have seen, right? That are quintessential PG, as you call him?
Well, I think I first learned about and engaged with Comrade PG in the 1980s, during the days of the United Democratic Front. And one of the things that you always in meetings, even if you disagree with him, is the fact that, an astuteness of argument, his intellect, his sense of strategy, but also his warmness of personality, and preparedness to listen. And I think that even afterwards, say, for example, over the last 5-6 years, when there's an issue about any of the public enterprises, you'll always be willing to pick up the phone and to be able to address concerns or explain what's happening. And I think that's the kind of PG that we know, somebody that's very robust, certainly, but also somebody that's very humane and willing to listen, and willing to engage.
Yeah. Well, we really do appreciate your time, and thank you so much for speaking to us. Condolences as well. And we are going to be keeping those messages coming in. ANC NEC member Mephibi Potgieter-Qobule this morning speaking to us as she pays tribute to the former Public Enterprises Minister who passed away in the early hours of this morning.